Hello everybody, welcome into Rock Painting 101. If you're joining in live right now, thanks for joining in. It will say live in the upper left hand corner for you. If it doesn't say live there, that means you're watching the replay, so go ahead and leave comments and stuff in the replays as well. I do get to them eventually. I've got my phone a little bit more overhead right now so I can actually show what I'm doing as well as possible. So if you have any questions, I'll kind of pop up and ask for questions some of the ways through. I ran all the way downstairs and back up. No, I'm kidding. I did start on a dangle here because the process that I'm using with acrylic paint will take a little bit more dry time. So I'm gonna start a second one and then finish this first one. This first one is the first time I have ever attempted a dangle with acrylic paints. So I'm gonna get started over here and then I'll kind of talk about what this whole process we're doing here for the month of January in case you've missed it. So hello everybody saying hi up there. I can see the comments, but it's a little bit overhead for me today, so I can't see them all as you're saying hi. I'm gonna peek now. Hi Sandy, hi Linda, and hello Terry. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I've just got some black acrylic paint here that I've got laid out. It's kind of dry here just because I was using it over on this first rock. And then I have a liner style brush. This is it says a 10/0. I did add a couple a set of brushes, this particular set, on the supply link for the page. So if you're looking for a good set of liner brushes, this one's made by, I think, Mod Podge or Plaid or something like that. They work really well. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna get my brush just a little bit wet, just to get the black paint nice and fluid. I might have to get a little bit more as we go on. We'll start with what I've got here. And you're just gonna kind of roll your brush so you get a nice tip to it. The thing with doing these dangles with acrylic is patience, because you have to take your time to get these lines on here. I actually dropped my brush on my rock. That's why we ended up with a giant heart on this one. So we're just gonna give ourselves something to let everything dangle from. And like I said, this is officially my second rock ever doing dangles with acrylics. So I'm kind of learning as I go along, just like y'all, but since it is the challenge of the month, I want to challenge myself as well. We all know, if you follow this page, that I've been doing dangles for a while. I'm pretty comfortable with my standard dangle style, but I wanted to step outside my comfort zone as well. And not everybody has access to the paint pens. So I wanted to show that these are possible with acrylics. Just definitely takes some patience. So we're just gonna go ahead and add these lines for something to dangle from here off the top. And I always like to have some sort of design along the top. I'm not sure what it will be on this one quite yet, but we'll kind of play around as we go. I don't plan these out ahead of time. That's kind of one of the reasons I think I like dangles so much, is you can kind of make them up as you go along. Now, anytime when you're painting, if your paint's not flowing well, just get a little dab of water, roll it in that paint, because you want it to be a little bit thinner so you can get nice lines. And try not to press your brush down too hard or your lines will start getting really thick. So I see some other people popping in, so I'm just gonna repeat myself for those that are here. I've got my camera a little bit higher up. I can't read the comments while I'm painting, especially since this is my second dangle rock ever with a brush. However, I will stop occasionally and check for questions, but as those comments scroll by, so just hold tight if you have some questions. So the month of January we have dubbed to be a Zendangle month. So each week we're hoping that everybody gets a chance to try to do at least one dangle and see if you can improve on this style of rock. So there's 2 links attached to this post. One will take you to the January post. It's the pinned post on the page that will give you all the information. And every time I do a new tutorial, I will leave it there. I've linked to the website where we have a whole archive of inspiration as far as designs and themes that you can try out with these. And then also there's a supply link to a shop on Amazon with only the supplies that we're using for this month's challenge. So you don't have to go through all the different stuff. But I did add these liner brushes there, since I guess officially you can do dangles even if you don't have pens. You will have to have a steady hand. If you don't have a steady hand, these will definitely be frustrating. So the first thing I do is add some of my vertical lines. If it's easier for you to pull your paint up, go ahead and pull your paint up. If you find it easier to pull down, I kind of switch back and forth. You'll find what works best for you and just stick with it. I highly suggest going up or down though. Don't try to go left to right. If you go left to right, you'll tend to smush your bristles. There we go. I'm getting low on black paint. I'm gonna have to get myself a little bit more. So just start off with a few vertical lines, and then you'll start to add your dangles within those. I'm just gonna get one more little squirt of black here. I always try to use the least amount as possible so I don't waste paint. But we're gonna be using this for dotting, so we'll use quite a bit more. All right, so let's do one here that splits. And if you have the book, the Dangles book, some of the dangles in there are a little bit too intricate, I think, for doing with a brush. So I've stuck to more of a simple design. They just, I mean, some people might have that kind of ability with a brush. I find some of those to be a little tricky. So you can have different ways that they attach to the top. They can attach to each other. They can break apart and become separate dangles. There's lots of things you can do. You can add things coming off to the sides of each one. Like I said, you just kind of decide as you go along what you want to do. And you can always add more too. So if you want to start with a few, add your dots and color them, and then decide if you want to add more, you can. Now I did some hearts on this first rock. So I am going to use the same purple tones on both of them, and so why not? We're heading close to Valentine's Day. I don't mind having hearts on my rocks. I just posted one of my favorite heart rocks earlier today from last year. It was like a mandala style rock. I like to spread a lot of love coming into February all over the place. There we go. Now, a little trick if you're trying to do hearts, you can just kind of make a V shape. Start with a V. And then just bring that top part, fill it in just a little bit. You don't have to try to make the arches with your brush. That can be kind of tricky. There we go. Let's see here. Like, we're gonna add the dots. I feel like I need something up here along the top though as well. So I think I'm just gonna add a few more pulls up just to take up some of this space. And we'll fill them in with lots of fun little dots and designs. Like that. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this one a little bit simple. I don't want you guys on here all day, but these lives for this monthly challenge will tend to be a bit longer. If you don't have time to watch the whole one while I'm on now, you can always come back and watch the replay. The replay will be on the page. But I don't want to rush through these. Sometimes when I was on the lives before, I kind of tend to rush a little bit because I'm trying to save them for later, but we're just gonna take our time here. Now there's a few different things you can use for making dots. I don't own any dotting tools. I have shown off before. I use pencil erasers a lot. You can get different sizes, like, so this is a basic pencil eraser. You can actually sharpen the end of your eraser in a pencil sharpener, which I do not have handy at the moment, to get it a little bit smaller of a size. But always just test your dots. Can you see my So if you dab it into your paint here, just kind of dab it off to the side and see if that's about the size that you want to start with. Now every time you dab a dot, it's going to get smaller and smaller. They call that walking dots a lot in like dotting tutorials. So if you get your paint on there, I always dab once off to the side. You can do walking dots up your dangles. So we're just going to go ahead and place one right on the end, like so, and then you can just go up a little bit. And that one's going to get naturally a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller, just like that. See, it goes okay like that. So I'm going to do a few of those just around. So I'm going to put one on the end here, like so. Let's do a couple big ones up here on the top. That. And sometimes on a rock, obviously it's not a flat surface, you'll find that it kind of molds the rock. That's why I kind of like to use an eraser. You can kind of wiggle it. The rubbery surface of it kind of allows it to get down in there. Now for your next size down, you can use you can sharpen your eraser even more, or you can use the back side of paintbrushes. You'll find that they're all different sizes and shapes. So you can go ahead and go in with the back side of your one of your paintbrushes and add a few smaller dots around. And the more you dot on the same dot, it will grow because the paint will kind of spread. So I'm going to put one at the end of each of these. Like so. And when I'm done with some of these dots, I'm going to peek up and see if any of y'all have any questions. So hold tight just a second. And I won't fill all of these because I'm going to color in the one here to my left. And I can come back and work on this one a bit more. Because the thing is with the dotting this way, these dots are going to just take a little bit longer to dry than if you were doing it with a pen. And while I said this would be a longer video, I don't want to sit and watch paint dry with you. That's a little bit too long, even for me. There we go. A couple dots up here. See, I keep saying I'm going to hop off after this dot. Oh. And they can be close together, just like on the other dangles. All right, I'm going to call that good. I'll come back and add some more dots to that one in a little bit. So I'm going to push that one up out of the way. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I've got just a couple seconds here. I've got my paint under a damp paper towel here so that it didn't dry completely up on me. All I did here was went from a purple and then I added white on my palette and just kind of blended them across. So I'm going to have kind of almost like an ombre effect on my dangle, which is kind of a fun thing about doing these dangles with acrylics because you can blend your paint colors a little bit more. You could do all your dots and lining with the black pen if that's all you have, and then come back with the acrylics to fill them in and things like that as well. So I don't see any questions popping up, so I'll look again at the end. So like I said before, you can have your different tips of your paintbrushes. You can even use a sharpened pencil. The biggest thing is when you're putting your paint down, you don't want to hit your actual rock because that will almost leave a spot in the middle. You just want to touch it enough that the paint's going to lay on the rock. So I'm going to do a nice small one here. We're going to get a nice little dollop of paint on the tip of our paintbrush here, and I'm going to come up nice and close so you guys can see. You just literally dab the paint on, but you don't want to actually touch the rock, and you should be able to get a couple out of each little dot of paint. Now these will work the same as far as walking in sizes, where if you're going smaller and smaller. Now this is a really tiny, so I'm just doing some of my really tiny ones here. See, I could do this one. There we go, like that. All right, so you've got your different sizes. I would always say to try probably the smaller size you think you're going to need first. just because you don't want to expand past the edge. However, when you press down further, that dot's going to get bigger when you do a second dollop of paint. So I could even go in, this is the one that I just used to do the black dots, but I could even go in with that one. And as long as I don't press down all the way, the paint on the tip will fill that circle in. So I'm just going to go right here, just like that. There we go, just like that. Am I in the frame? Whoop. Sorry, kind of underneath the comments there. So I'm just gonna kind of go between the different colors. Like I'm not going to have it go light to dark necessarily on here. I just wanna have all these different colors throughout the rock. So I'm gonna do a couple more with this dark. There we go. There we go. And we'll do a few with this lighter color. Okay, now here's something to pay attention to. All right, when I did my white, I used my thick white. Anytime you're dotting, you don't want these peaks to form. Like I almost think of it like when you're making, it looks like a meringue peak. Look at that, even you can see it on my tip. So that paint is a little bit too thick. So I like to keep water close by. It does not take much, the littlest bit of water, but my paint was also sitting here for a minute while I was doing that. I had it covered, but you don't want those hard peaks when you're painting dots. So there we go. See how it's not a peak on there anymore? So we'll go in and fill in a few dots. Did I get all my big dots? Let's get this one up here. I think I got all my big dots. This might be my last one. Okay, so we're gonna go in with a smaller brush now, brush tip, and do some more of these dots that are a little bit smaller. And again, if you just make sure you get right in that center and just don't press, you don't wanna actually press your brush. You're just trying to get that paint to kind of pull off your dotting tool onto your dangle. We're just gonna go around and add these. And you should be able to walk these dots as well. They should get smaller and smaller easily. Just like that. Oh, my tray's out of the frame. Oh, thank you, Stacy. Yeah, I've just blended from a white to a purple. I mean, you could do this combination, kind of ombre color effect, I guess you could say, with any combination that you like. Just start with one color on one side, white on the other, and just take, I have a popsicle stick, and I just slowly wiggled the white over and then wiggled the purple over and just kind of get a few different shades and variations of your color that you can work with. Thank you for pointing that out, Stacy. So I'm gonna grab some more here. So I'm gonna walk these dots, so 1, 2, 3, like that. All right, so I'm not gonna do all my dots. I think you kind of got the idea that, like, even for the super tiny ones, I did a few tiny ones too. Okay, so just what you have around the house can work just fine, or you can invest in dotting tools if you want. I just don't own any personally. And then the rest of it is just, you know, coloring in like you're painting. I mean, I'm gonna go in and paint this heart at the bottom. Now, some of the bigger spaces might need more than one coat if you're right on a rock surface. Some depends on the style of rocks. Some soak up your paint, some don't. But just take your time when you're filling things in. Having a smaller set of brushes really does help. This set comes with like a few square edged brushes. So like this one will need a second coat up here on the top. Like so. Just like that. So I'm going to continue to paint and fill this in. I think I've kind of touched all the different surfaces and things that you're going to have to do when attempting to do a dangle with acrylic paints. So just because you don't have pens doesn't mean you can't do dangles. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them up here. I'll stand just for another minute or two. Yes, Linda said toothpicks work great for dotting. They absolutely do. And you can walk with toothpicks that you can get really tiny dots and some really fun details. That's a very good suggestion, Linda. So next prompt on Monday will be week 2 of the January challenge. So if you painted a rock last week and tried out a Zendangle, I would love for you to take a picture with last week's rock and this week's rock. You don't have to use acrylics. Just attempt another Zendangle with whatever medium that you prefer and take a picture of them together and see if you can see your progression. And then the third week we'll do the same thing and hopefully see all 3 of your rocks. So I encourage you to try at least a dangle a week during the month of January if you're trying to keep up with the challenge so that you can really improve on that skill. I'm going to finish painting these completely, and I will leave a picture of the completed ones in the comments below so you can see them all finished up. Again, if you are catching the replay of this, feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. I do come back and read them. So thank you everybody that watched live and is here right now. Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.